Hey, this sounds from Request for Music, and this is a separate video about the keyboard scaling within decks. So I'll place my decks there. This is already an updated version that has some things that I'll explain later in a later video. So I'll first hook this up. So I'll get my, and it's probably just off screen, but I have my poly pitch here that I connect. I have my poly gate and my poly velocity that I connect, and I hook my outputs up to my left and right output into the main outs. So I have sound, and you can see what am I doing on the keyboard. So something like that. To start off with, I'm going to reset my controls so I end up with only one operator on screen, and that operator is just, of course, that one sinus. And you'll find your keyboard settings or this keyboard scaling settings here on the keyboard knob. If you look at this knob itself, it's actually the level scaling itself. It's at 0 now, but you have the option to go up to 1 and down to -1. So first of all, let's go back to 0. And as I said, now the notes I'm playing on a arterial key step. For now, you see that my notes are running through, and obviously I can go down key octaves and so on, but this is my C4. And if I put my scaling all the way up to this, I do have sound on my C4, and after that with E4 it already disappears. So you can use that to create different sounds. So if I, for instance, I'm on algorithm 1, which means that both my number 1 operator and my number 3 are are indeed carriers. So if I put this on and I would set my keyboard scaling all the way down, it's also at C4. And let's say that let's actually go for a different sound. So I'll just keep it at 1, but I'll change it to the next sound. So as soon as I drive it with some volume, then I have this on the right side of my keyboard. And from C4 downwards, it also takes about 3 notes to get rid of the sound. So actually, I would normally have to take this note 3 notes up. So I'd have to click my shift knob and then go 3 notes up. So something like this. So now I have a sound on one part. So I can use that as a split keyboard. So let's switch number 2 on, because that is going to drive them as a modulator. It's going to drive number 1. So dial this up and change the sound to make it sort of something like this. And on the other side, I want something else, of course. So something like this, and maybe I don't want this to be, or maybe I want it more percussive as well. Something like this, and maybe change this downwards a bit. And maybe take this down so I don't have the same kind of sustain, but it's going to die out. And take this down an octave. Take this down an octave as well. So something like that. And if I would actually have given, or yeah, maybe it's more like maybe I want some special effects on a specific part. So let's say that I want the higher my notes are going to be, maybe I want some sort of a um, a blowing kind of sound, of a sort of noise sound in there. So I could try to do that by heightening this value. So something like this, maybe even more than this. Maybe a bit longer, and maybe even some feedback in there. And now take my keyboard scaling down, and so the higher notes, and let's take this up. So shift, click on that, and take it up to say C5. So maybe it needs some more scaling, I guess. And maybe I have to take it up even further than this. And maybe take it up to say 3. Something like that. And you could do that on other sides as well. So actually, if I, for instance, wanted this to be a different kind of algorithm, maybe I want numbers 1, 2, and 3 to be one stack, and 3, 4, 5, 6 to be another stack. I could actually go into that kind of algorithm already, and now make sure that I copy my number 5 to number 6, my number 4 to 5, my number 3 to 4, to have that same setup. So I press my Alt and my Shift to copy this by taking the number 5 here in the header, and then without the Shift key I'm copying it there. Doing the same with my number 4 into 5, and my number 3 into 4. So now I have the same setup, but now for number, and I have to make sure that my keyboard scaling is still okay. And first of all, take this off. So let's see if everything's okay still. So this was set to 4, so something like this. This was set to something like this, and there. And maybe I want something like that in the lower section with on the lowest notes to have more punch or something like that. So let's switch these back to that, and let's go here the other way around. Something like this. Take that lower note down. So now I have this extra sort of bite in the lowest notes. And of course the amount of output of that modulator is going to make the difference, right? So if I want this note to be longer, then of course I need some more delay in, or more sustain in number 2. Something like that. if I want this to be longer, then of course same thing, I need to lengthen this part from my number 4, and I also need to change the output length of my number 5. So, and the release length, and I probably need to change the release length for this one as well. So yeah, that's what you actually use your keyboard scaling for, and of course, there's all these kinds of modulations, and especially with all of the volumes that you can use. Sorry, as a target. Yeah, there's all these possibilities open for you because you can indeed use the operator scale level and the scale center as targets in the modulation matrix. So it's up to you how to control that further, but at least this is how level scaling works. And I'll see you back in the next one. So cheers for now. Bye bye.